Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. This is a fun time, man. I mean, every week is a fun time, but this was like a really fun time. Do you know why it's a really fun time?
Tell me why.
Because like my favorite player in the NFL is now a full-blown workhorse, so it's pretty awesome.
Who's your favorite player in the NFL? Christian McCaffrey? He's been a workhorse for years.
Well, he's one of my favorites. But I mean, on the Mount Rushmore of like Jacob's favorite players, where I actually watch every one of their snaps every week, I'm beyond excited for Travis Etienne season. And honestly, I've waited for it for way too long. I got robbed of his rookie season with some person named Liz Frank. And then all of a sudden, this year we had to deal with Jane Rob's plotting ass and all of the people that have been failing upward on their James Robinson takes for so long. Finally, at long last, got was coming to them with the zero carry performance. Travis Etienne fully took over the backfield. It didn't even take half a season for him to be a full-blown bell cow because that's the type of player that he is. And James Robinson got shipped out to the New York Jets because that's the type of player that he unfortunately is now with the Achilles. And now we have two players that we have long faded over at the Bulletproof Industrial Complex, sharing a backfield together in James Robinson and Michael Carter. And we have Travis Etienne on all of his glory. Am I a little sad that we had to sacrifice Breece Hall in the process? I am sad about that, but I'm focusing on the positives.
Yeah, it is a sad day for Breece Hall stands. I want to, I didn't know you were going into this right away. Matt, I just need you to know this is not how the show sheet was instructed, but I need to add this in because Jacob went for it, and now I'm all in. This fantasy receipts account came out. You've probably seen it on Twitter, right? They started pulling some of my receipts, and I was like, hey, wait, this we're not ready to take an L here. You're jumping the gun on this. And then I think it was maybe the third one or so of mine that they pulled. I was like, you're gonna get receipt inception receipted here because you're pulling my receipt too soon. This is absolutely going to play out in my favor. And here we are, October, when was this? October 7th, let's go back to the start. August 29th, 2021, I had said, what if, and wait for this, because it's a real kicker, James Robinson was always a trap. And then
he definitely always was. Yeah.
Fantasy Receipts comes back, they pull my receipt. What if? I'm like, okay, fair. What if? And then Fantasy Receipts has arrived on the scene to save the day, October 24th, 2022. What if? On the what if from Fantasy Receipts. So we are experiencing Fantasy Receipts Inception live and in color, if that's how the saying goes. I'm not really sure. Anyways, it's really hilarious because of all the tweets that they pulled on me as a gotcha, when it was too soon, it would happen to be James Robinson, and I love it because they would never pull my Fantasy Receipts on James Robinson for being awesome and a great pick back in waivers of 2020 when I was telling you to go get him. But once I didn't like him anymore, and he got too expensive. Once he got too expensive, then I didn't like him as much anymore. And then we had to flip him to a sell, and then Etienne got drafted, and then Etienne got hurt, and then Robinson got to fulfill his role as the unquestioned bell cow and put up a completely middling RB2 season with no competition, which is exactly what I said would happen. Either he gets replaced or he's just completely ordinary from here on out. And then he was ordinary, then he tore his Achilles, and now he is out of here. And receipt inception is my favorite thing of the day. And that was yesterday, actually. So it was my favorite day yesterday. Anyways, tell me more about Travis Etienne. How high is the ceiling today, right now, moving forward? How's he going to finish the rest of the season? How many points is he going to score on a per game basis?
I think probably in the high teens. I think 17, 18.
So you think he's going to be right in Jonathan Taylor range? That's high. I heard Jonathan Taylor's generational, and now you're out here saying that Travis Etienne is going to match Jonathan Taylor, the generational one?
I mean, I would argue that Travis Etienne was potentially a better prospect from a fantasy football perspective than Jonathan Taylor.
This is madness. You can't say those kind of things on the air.
I mean, look,
You're gonna get us
I got
canceled.
plenty of things wrong in my life. One of them is I had DeAndre Swift ranked ahead of Jonathan Taylor in the 2021 draft or 2020
I'm
draft.
going
Sorry.
to submit this to fantasy.
The difference is that I'll actually like own to being wrong about that Swift over Taylor take, whereas you'll say that it was actually the correct take all along.
It was the actual correct take all along. Great point.
No, I think that Travis Etienne. So he's been like, when everyone's asked me, what do you think of the Etienne start? And I've had such like kind of mixed reactions almost because, you know, it's been a mixed bag. I think what I've settled on is like, he's exactly what Travis Etienne has always been, which is in the best and the worst ways. Like, he is unbelievably electric. And you see that he's third in the NFL right now in rush yards over expectation per attempt. He's, I think, first in the NFL in yards per carry. The guy is having like a 40-yard run every single week, which is unreal. His acceleration is insane. Like, even plays that didn't go anywhere. He had one where he got a sweet play yesterday, and it looked like he was going to tackle for a 6-yard loss, and he just turns on the afterburners from almost stop and races around the edge. He ends up getting 3 or 4 yards, but it was like probably should have been a loss of 6. I mean, you can obviously see why Jacksonville was like, okay, we need this guy in our offense instead of James Robinson, because every single time that Etienne touches the ball, he's liable to completely flip the field. That being said, he's also like so tilting because, I mean, he had a horrific fumble in this game that he like lost off of his knee at the 3-yard line. It's really sloppy hand positioning on his receiving work. And I think like in theory, I think he can beat at every down back. I think the fear that I had for the start of the season is like, where's the coaches going to come down, right? Are they going to crave the big playability? Are they going to invest in developing this really unique, one-of-a-kind young player who has traits that most human beings just aren't born with, the ability to go that fast, that quickly from a stop? Or are they going to get frustrated? They're just going to, head in old reliable. And honestly, I'm just remarkably impressed with the coaching staff that they're like, you know what? We're 2-5. We have this really special athlete. He's 23. We're just going to throw him out there and we're going to work on developing this guy because this guy can be a difference maker in our offense instead of feeding half the carries to the reliable guy who we're going to get walk at the end of the year. And I mean, Etienne's ceiling is sky high because realistically, the only thing I think that's preventing him from being a 20-point per game back perennially has been touches, which he's now presumably this team was like, yeah, we want to get this guy more touches. We're clearing out the decks for him to get as many touches as he can handle. And then the receiving work. But a lot of the receiving work is honestly like on him. Like, he's been so efficient when he gets the ball because he's so incredible in space, and he gets really creative receiving usage from Doug Peterson. It's just like, catch the ball, bro. Right? That's really what's holding him back, honestly, is the inability to catch the ball consistently, to not use his alligator arms for hands. So I think that the stuff that he can't do is very fixable, and the stuff that he can do is not teachable. And ultimately, that's just the kind of profile that I think is pretty exciting to buy in on, especially when it's backed by draft capital and fantastic college production, and now a team that is clearly very committed to using him.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably somewhere in the high teens in terms of fantasy points per game is probably what I would be expecting from Travis Etienne at this point. I think he could be completely exceptional if he hits a lucky touchdown run or something, or like run of touchdowns, not like a singular one, like a bunch of them in like a Jonathan Taylor-esque 2021 kind of fashion where he scores 21 fantasy points per game, but he'll be a little bit more explosive, I think, in the passing game. He's such a unique prospect, actually, Travis Etienne. I remember going back in time and remembering what happened back in the draft process with Travis Etienne. He had a very odd profile, a good profile. Like, he was a bulletproof running back, which is really good. There's not that many of them. It's like 30 in like 18 years or something. So it's a pretty rare feat to have a bulletproof running back. But Travis Etienne was one of them. And so I remember people saying like he's soft, he gets tackled easily, and then also saying like he's really hard to tackle and all this other stuff. And I was like, this just doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't really matter. I'm just reminiscing now of hilarious takes from back then. What really matters is that he's super explosive, and he's going to score a probably above average number of long touchdowns or long runs or long like catch it at the line of scrimmage, beat a player, and go for 80 yards for a touchdown. Like that's kind of his forte. When you were describing the James Robinson versus Travis Etienne thing, with Travis Etienne being like this special athlete that, has God-given talents that only he can possess, it was really reminding me of 2 years ago, or I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson, and Kerryon Johnson is like coming off injury with like this massive knee brace. I can't do that. Like I can't do what he's doing. I can't do, like, that's James Robinson watching Travis Etienne in practice every day. Like I'm coming off an Achilles injury, and like I couldn't even do that when I was healthy. And it's just beautiful. Anyway, Travis Etienne, really strong player. Goodbye in Dynasty, I think. I panicked on Travis Etienne early in the season because they gave.
And then and what did I say to that? I said, "Don't panic."
You did say, "Don't panic." They gave James Robinson so much work that I was like, I can't just see them ever just not giving him work. And then here we are 6 weeks later, and they've traded James Robinson, and we don't have to worry about him being a thorn. Like sorry, let me back up. This was never a James Robinson is good take. It was a James Robinson is going to be a thorn in the side of Travis Etienne in a way that's going to prevent him from being a bona fide superstar. That thorn is gone, and I'm pretty sure James Robinson is probably toast. Like pretty much every metric that we look at, he's like bottom of the league coming off an Achilles injury. Cam Akers is like bottom of the league coming off an Achilles injury. Maybe these Achilles injuries are just actually like career killers, like everyone said they were. And I'm probably never going to be on the side of buying Achilles injured running backs in the future, because now we've seen two good ones, or at least
we've seen one good one, right? Like Akers. The thing about Akers is like he was never good. No, I'm not saying I didn't buy into Akers. No, he was a good prospect, but Akers has never been an efficient NFL runner. He got a lot of volume, and that was awesome. And I don't really worry that much about rookie running backs being inefficient unless they're like ghastly levels of inefficient. Because if they get a bunch of volume, they tend to increase in efficiency over time. And Akers had a really strong college profile.
His efficiency isn't
that. But that being said, we never had a baseline of Akers as like being a guy who was crushing advanced rushing metrics. So like it's plausible that he was just always not that good. But James Robinson like crushed in his rookie year he was like above average, and his second year he was phenomenal in almost any advanced rushing metric you look at. And then he tore his Achilles, and now he's ass. And so like I do think for sure that there's something there, and it's that he doesn't have an Achilles tendon anymore. And I'm
more like there's something that isn't there. Hi-oh.
There you go. So no, I'm just not buying these Achilles guys again. And I think that this Robinson thing was like a great example where everybody was so willing to accept that he was back early, and he had those two long runs where he got these wide open holes and he kind of lumbered into the end zone. And
I think it was
like he wasn't good. Like you looked at the advanced stats, it was like this guy sucks. And the thing about Etienne is that he was doing really well, right? Yeah. And what's so exciting about Etienne, I think, is like I think people viewed him as like almost like a disappointment because of a lot of the expectation from the summer was, oh my God, Robinson might not even play this year, right? People are like, this guy might not even play. And then all of a sudden Etienne is like totally splitting time. He's even playing less snaps, and it was full-blown panic. People forget. This is essentially Travis Etienne's rookie season. I mean, he never played in the NFL last year. He's also coming off of a fairly severe foot injury. So the fact that this is like the first 7 games of his NFL career, and he's one of the most efficient backs in the NFL, and he went from being like the 1B in a timeshare to an 80% snap rate within 7 weeks, like we're allowed to just be really excited about that. And we're allowed to not nitpick that he dropped some passes or fumbled a ball, because again, this is the first 7 games of his NFL career. Like we're allowed to get really excited about young players that are super athletic and awesome that make some mistakes in their first 7 games of their NFL career. I saw there was an interesting, Peter Howard and I were going back and forth a little bit on Twitter, the great Peter Howard. For anyone listening to the audio version, I just did my hat tip gift to Peter. He is on the other side. He thinks Travis Etienne is a big sell. And what we realized though is that like, while he thinks Etienne's a sell, and I think he's like a hold or a buy, that we did agree in one circumstance, which is selling him for a similarly productive running back rest of the season plus a first, if that's doable, is an interesting idea. And we sort of reached this thing. It's like, okay, if Travis Etienne's a top 5 running back, what does that mean? And do we like, how fatalist should we be? Do we want to hold any young running backs in Dynasty anymore when they get past a certain value? Or should we just no longer be excited about running backs like Travis Etienne?
I think, like it really gets to, it comes down to where his price tag gets to, is really where all the decision points have to be derived from. Because if he is valued, say, in a place where you're able to get like a superstar quarterback, then or like easily can get into a superstar quarterback, like, oh, I'll give you Etienne and I don't know, Jahan Dotson, and you give me I don't know, Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or something like that. Like if he's in that kind of range, then I'm pretty interested in offloading Travis Etienne. But if he doesn't get to that range, then I'm not as interested. And even like if I could get into like easily into like a Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson or something like that, we're just getting a lot more stability at the stability in terms of like injury risk and longevity, and where we have a pretty good idea that the player is exceptional. And I think running backs get overvalued in that sense. Like we see these unexceptional running backs shoot to the top of value boards everywhere. And then it's just a matter of, okay, well, time to cash out now, because now we're holding a ton of injury risk. If Travis Etienne, tears his ACL tomorrow, then we're looking at a tremendous amount of value lost and production lost. And therefore, I'd rather flip it into like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson, or heck, like Kyle Pitts. I know like Kyle Pitts isn't going to score points this year. I just want everyone to know that. Like it's over. We'll talk about the Falcons later, but like it's over for Kyle Pitts this year, but it's not over for Kyle Pitts' career. And Kyle Pitts is going to have a probably Travis Kelce-esque career. So if I could take my Travis Etienne and I'm not like a super competitive team right now, I happily flip that into a Kyle Pitts plus, because I'm pretty sure you can get some on top of Pitts for Etienne right now. So anyways, yeah. Etienne just really comes down to where his price settles.